Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Radha Giridhari Shri Radhe. Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe, Jayo Radhe. Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev. Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the present assembled devotees. We may begin with reading from Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrita. I am on the chapter In Every Town and Village, page number 1026. I'll start from Lord Nityananda and his representative, the spiritual master. Do not alter the scriptures or the teachings of Lord Krishna, but make them more accessible and understandable. Lord Chaitanya commissioned Lord Nityananda to preach the holy name at everyone's door, and Lord Nityananda's exemplary mood of vigorous, compassionate preaching was also the mood of Srila Prabhupada. As Srila Prabhupada imparted this mood to his disciples, then they in turn went out into the streets of cities around the world to distribute to everyone the mercy of the holy name of God. Lord Nityananda is especially renowned for saving two drunkard brothers, Jagai and Madhai, even though they had assaulted him when he had attempted to bless them with the holy name. In Lord Nityananda's time, Prabhupada on several occasions explained there were only one Jagai and Madhai, but now the whole world is filled with Jagai and Madhais. And Prabhupada was recruiting his disciples from these Jagais and Madhais. Srila Prabhupada fully displayed Lord Nityananda's compassion in taking all risks and freely giving the holy name. Even Lord Nityananda himself, during his appearance in India, did not approach as many fallen souls as Srila Prabhupada, nor did he approach souls in such degraded conditions of life or in so many rejected parts of the world. But he has done so now through his representative Srila Prabhupada. As the recipient of the combined mercy of Gaura Nitai, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, Srila Prabhupada blessed the world with love of God. Srila Prabhupada, however, never described himself as a great empowered personality, either in public or among his disciples, but he stressed that he was in disciplic succession, carrying the authorized knowledge, and he encouraged his disciples to take the same position. We want to create many pure devotees so that other people will benefit by their association. In this way, the number of pure devotees increases. Prabhupada knew well that propagating Krishna consciousness was not a professional business. Although in India many professionals spoke or wrote on Srimad Bhagavatam to earn their livelihood, they could not convert materialistic people to devotional service. Only a pure devotee could change the materialistic heart. Prabhupada did not even conclude that he was a pure devotee, only that he was the servant of a pure devotee, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, his Guru Maharaj. Prabhupada prayed that before he left the world, he could create a living family of pure devotees to spread the parampara teachings of Krishna consciousness and protect them from being changed or obscured. He emphasized that all the preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement could become pure devotees by following the regulative principles, avoiding sinful life, and regularly chanting Hare Krishna. Only in this way, he said, could the devotees have an effect on others. We are on the last page of this volume. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So we are on verse number 13 from 17th chapter, Canto 5. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridiyantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti suhit satam. नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्ठिकी. So, welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam session. We are on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 17. Chapter 17 is about the descent of the river Ganges, and we are talking in the section of the 9 Varshas of Jambudvip, and we are on verse number 13. The meter seems to be, I don't know the meter, so I probably will just read it. Anyone who knows the meter can recite once I'm finished reading. Yatra hi devapatayaha sway swair gananayakair vihita mahahanaha sarvartu kusuma stabbaka phala kishalaya श्रियानम्यमान विटप लता विटपभीर उपसुम्भमान रुचिर कानन कान आना श्रमायतन वर्षगिरि द्रोणीषु तथा चमला जलास्य येषु विकच विविध नव विरा वन रुहामोद मुदित राजहंसक जल कुक्कुट कुकुट कारणदव शार स चक्रवाकादिभिर मधुकर निकरार कृतिभिर उपकूजितेषु जल क्रीडा दिभिर विचित्र विनोदय सुललिता सुंदरिणाम कामकलीला विलास हास लीला बलोकाकृष्ट मनोदृष्टय स्वैरम viharanti. Wow, wonderful. So, are there any volunteers who would want to recite or read this verse?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavad Pranam, beta. Hare Krishna. May I try?
Yes,
but I
yes,
don't know the
Mataji.
meter.
Please.
यत्र देवपत्या स्वैर्गणनायकै विहिते महारणा सर्वतो कुसुम स्तब्धक फल किश्लया श्रियमान वितप लता वितपीभीर उपसुम्भमान रुचिर कानन आश्रमाय यतन वर्षु गिरिद्रुनीषु तथा चामल जलाशयेषु विचक विविध नव वनरुहामोद मुदित राजहंस जल कुकूत कारण दव सारस चक्रवाकादिभीर मधुकर निकर आकृतिभीर उप उजितेषु जलक्रीडादिभीर विचित्र विनोदै सुललित सुर सुंदरीनाम कलील विलास हास लीला अवलोका आकृष्ट मनोदृष्टया स्वैरम विहरन्ति. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. This was so beautiful.
We don't know the meters, but we just try.
Anyone else? Okay, then we can move on to synonyms, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yatra, in those 8 tracts of land, Deva Patayaha, the lords of the demigods, such as Lord Indra.
Who is Papa?
Sway, by their own respective. Gananayakahe, leaders of the servants. Vihita, furnished with. Maha Arhana, valuable gifts such as sandalwood pulp and garlands. Sarvaritu, in all seasons. Kusumastabhaka, of bunches of flowers. Phala, of fruits. Kisalaya Shriya, by the opulences of shoots. Anam Yamana, being bent down. Vitapa, whose branches. Lata, and creepers. Vitapibhihi, by many trees. Upashambha Mana, being fully decorated. Ruchira, beautiful. Kanana, gardens. Ashrama Ayatana, and many hermitages. Varshagiri Dronishu, the valleys between the mountains designating the borders of the tracts of land. Tatha, as well as Cha, also Amala Jala Ashayeshu, in lakes with clear water. Vikacha, just fructified. Vividha, varieties. Nava Vanaruha Amod, by the fragrance of lotus flowers. Mudita, enthused. Rajahamsa, great swans. Jalakukuta, waterfowl. Karanadava, aquatic birds like Karanadavas. Sarasa, cranes. Chakravaka Adivihi, by birds known as Chakravakas, and so on. Madhukara Nikara Akriti Bhi, by the bumblebees. Upakujiteshu, which were made to resound. Jalakrida Adibihi, such as water sports. Vichitra, various. Vinodai, by pastimes. Sulalita, attractive. Sura Sundarinam, of the women of the demigods. Kama, from lust. Kalila, born. Vilasa, pastimes. Hasa, smiling. Leela Avaloka, by playful glances. Akrishta Manaha, whose minds are attracted. Drishtayaha, and whose visions is attracted. Swairam, very freely. Viharanti, engaged in sportive enjoyments. Any volunteers who would like to read the translation and purport?
I can read, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In each of those tracts of land, there are many gardens filled with flowers and fruits according to the season, and there are beautifully decorated hermitages as well. Between the great mountains demarcating the borders of those lands lie enormous lakes of clear water filled with newly grown lotus flowers. Aquatic birds such as swans, ducks, water chickens, and cranes become greatly excited by the fragrance of lotus flowers, and the charming sound of bumblebees fills the air. The inhabitants of those lands are important leaders among the demigods. Always attended by their respective servants, they enjoy life in gardens alongside the lakes. In this pleasing situation, the wives of the demigods smile playfully at their husbands and look upon them with lusty desires. All the demigods and their wives are constantly supplied with sandalwood pulp and flower garlands by their servants. In this way, all the residents of the 8 heavenly Varshas enjoy, attracted by the activities of the opposite sex. Should I continue with the purport or is somebody else reading?
May I read the purport, please?
Yes, Mataji, go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Here is a description of the lower heavenly planets. The inhabitants of those planets enjoy life in a pleasing... Oh, Krishna. What happened? Can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. The inhabitants of those planets enjoy life in a pleasing atmosphere of clear lakes filled with newly grown lotus flowers and gardens filled with fruits, flowers, various kinds of birds and hummingbees. In that atmosphere, they enjoy life with their very beautiful wives, who are always sexually stimulated. Nonetheless, they are all devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as will be explained in subsequent verses. The inhabitants of this earth also desire such heavenly enjoyment, but when they somehow or other achieve imitation pleasures like sex and intoxication, they completely forget the service of the Supreme Lord. In the heavenly planets, however, although the residents enjoy superior sense gratification, they never forget their positions as eternal servants of the Supreme Being. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदामयं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते वीरकृष्णदास गोस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So I'll read the translation one more time and then I'll stop sharing the screen. In each of those tracts of land, there are many gardens filled with flowers and fruits according to the season, and there are beautifully decorated hermitages as well. Between the great mountains demarcating the borders of those lands lie enormous lakes of clear water filled with newly grown lotus flowers. Aquatic birds such as swans, ducks, water chickens, and cranes become greatly excited by the fragrance of lotus flowers, and the charming sounds of bumblebees fill the air. The inhabitants of those lands are important leaders among the demigods. Always attended by their respective servants, they enjoy life in gardens alongside the lakes. In this pleasing situation, the wives of the demigods smile playfully at their husbands and look upon them with lusty desires. All the demigods and their wives are constantly supplied with sandalwood pulp and flower garlands by their servants. In this way, all the residents of the 8 heavenly Varshas enjoy, attracted by the activities of the opposite sex. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So, we are in the section where the 9 Varshas of Jambudvip is being discussed. So Bharatvarsh is understood to be the field of fruitive activities, that is Karma Kshetra. And then we have the 8 heavenly Varshas, the Bhauma Swarga, For pious people of the other 8 varshas are known as heaven on earth, Bhauma Swarga, and are meant for highly elevated pious persons who enjoy the remainder of their pious acts, Punya Shesha, after leaving the heavenly planets. So there are 3 types of heavenly places: Divya Swarga, earthly, Divya Swarga, which is celestial; earthly, which is Bhauma Swarga; and subterranean is Bila Swarga. So from verse 11 onwards, verse 12 talks about the long and youthful life. In these 8 verses, the human beings are like demigods and live for 10,000 years, and their bodies sturdy as thunderbolts and strong, and their bodies are strong as 10,000 elephants. In youth, they enjoy sexual union for a long time, and the women conceive only once in the last year of their lives. So this happiness is like the Treta Yuga. So the happiness is compared to Treta Yuga, for in this age people enjoy sense pleasure without tribulations. In Satya Yuga, everyone was fixed in meditation, and in Dwapar and Kali, suffering became more prominent. So these sections and the verse today is actually talking about the ambience and the enjoyment, how this material or the Bhauma Swarga looks. So these varshas are filled with many gardens and flowers and fruits and hermitages, great mountains, lakes of clear water with swans, ducks, water chickens, cranes, bumblebees. However, the chief demigods there are always attended by their respective servants and enjoy life with their wives, who play playfully and look upon them with lusty desires. It's quite interesting to read the purport here. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned a couple of things in the purport. So if we actually see from here that how to put this verse in simple words, we can say that Srila Prabhupada mentioned here in this verse that the inhabitants of this earth also desire such heavenly. So nonetheless, they are all devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as will be explained in the subsequent verses. The inhabitants of this earth, this means here, also desire such heavenly enjoyments, but when they somehow or other achieve imitation pleasures like sex and intoxication, they completely forget the service of the Supreme Lord. In the heavenly planets, however, although the residents enjoy superior sense gratification, they never forget their positions as eternal servants of the Supreme Being. So here, Srimad Bhagavatam is not actually questioning the pleasurable life. So it's being discussed that in the verse, there's breathtaking natural beauty. There's abundant sensual pleasure. There's a lot of association with the opposite sex, but devotees never forget Krishna. So this is the contrast here of today's verse, that the life, pleasurable life without forgetting Krishna. So heavenly, in this verse and the previous verse as well, we see, and in many of the verses where the heavenly opulences is being discussed, it's very intense. The heavenly sensuality is very intense, but it does not cause forgetfulness. But when humans imitate that pleasure, Srila Prabhupada mentions here, when we imitate that pleasure, we fall immediately because we forget. So when we actually put that in the mind map, how do we understand it? That our problem is not the pleasure. Our problem is being forgetful of Krishna. So humans imitate that pleasure and forget about Krishna, and then we fall immediately. So the difference lies in consciousness, not in the pleasure itself. So the real contrast then comes here of forgetting the heavenly inhabitants don't forget their positions. So it's the consciousness, it's not the circumstances. This means that our consciousness needs to be elevated, and despite of all the opulences uh, uh, or the pleasures that are available to us, if as long as our consciousness remains pure, we can remember Krishna. So heavenly beings enjoy far greater enjoyment than humans, but yet they remain humble devotees. The beautiful contrast here is humans enjoy very tiny fraction, which Srila Prabhupada also mentions here, saying that humans enjoy a very tiny fraction of, be it sensual pleasure, be it food, be it entertainment, and instantly lose spiritual awareness. So what is the reason that humans fall? The problem with humans is humans enjoy as owners and heavenly beings enjoy as servants. So in terms of understanding the consciousness part, you might have heard the story of two monks or one monk who was carrying the woman. So there were two monks who were standing across the muddy path, and there was this injured woman who came in, and she asked for help. The first monk actually refused to help, saying that no, we don't associate with women, so please go from here. But the other one picked the woman, let that woman help cross the path, and then having a very huge doubt, the first monk actually asked, why did you actually help that woman? So the older monk, who this question is being asked hours later. See, so the older monk actually replies that I put her down long ago when she is no more there, and you are still carrying her throughout the day. So the connection here is the similar sort of connection where heavenly beings, they experience beauty, sexuality, comfort, but they don't carry the pleasure internally. There is no replay, no fantasy, no ownership, no control, um, no sense of control. Because as long as we like to own something, we will be trying to control that. But humans actually carry residual impressions. Even in Bhagavad Gita, where the conversation where the fall down aspect is told by Krishna, that it starts from lust. So lust, attachment, and then fall down. So what is our enjoyment? Our enjoyment is kind of stick enjoyment. We want to stick with this enjoyment. And the story of this monk and the verse that talks about enjoying the heavenly sensual pleasures is a non-stick enjoyment. So in heavenly, why heavenly beings don't fall? Because they already have previous merit, previous spiritual merit. They constantly remember God, and their enjoyment is gratitude-based enjoyment. We also enjoy as humans because we want to fight the inner emptiness, which drives greed. The heavenly beings don't have the inner emptiness, which drives greed. And dharma regulates and purifies pleasure. The availability of opulences is there, but they are regulating it according to dharma. And therefore, their enjoyment is in the mode of goodness, sattvic enjoyment. It is not compulsive enjoyment. So often we understand in this verse also it says lusty desire. So what is lust? What is lust? Verse, or let's have a comparison between lust and sacred pleasures. So lust is equal to wanting to possess anything, and sacred pleasure is experiencing with gratitude. Um, heavenly beings enjoy the opposite sex, but they do not lust, and that's why this verse says attraction exists, but devotion remains intact. Attraction is there, but devotion is not forgotten. So, if we relate it to Bhagavad Gita 7, chapter 7, verse 11 here, I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas. The strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life, according to religious principles, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. The problem of children making Krishna conscious is not there in heavenly planets. So, Krishna is the spiritual essence of religious or righteous, let's put it not religious, but righteous intimacy. So, lust is not sex. Lust is forgetfulness. And sexual activity is divine when done with responsibility, respect, and selflessness. However, heavenly beings experience sexual pleasure within dharma, so that pleasure becomes Krishna himself. But humans have the tendency to imitate pleasure without dharma. Because their conscious level goes down, it becomes lust. Now, how can we enjoy? The question comes, how can we enjoy without forgetfulness? So, Srila Prabhupada has actually given such a beautiful routine for us to follow. And of those routine, there's one beautiful routine of offering bhoga to the Lord. If we integrate bhoga offering, and if we see how these things are connected, we can understand where our consciousness is. So if our offering is to satisfy our taste, satisfy our hunger without the sense of gratitude, it does not become prasad. So prasad means where Krishna is present. This means where gratitude is present. So if pleasure is a mirror, or we can understand it this way, pleasure can be a mirror to us. If it creates gratitude, that pleasure elevates us. If it creates greed, it degrades us. If it creates humility, if we have opulences, but we are humble, it purifies. And if it creates entitlement and control, it blinds. And we have seen this in Mahabharata, for example, how entitlement, greed has brought the war. So before eating, offering bhoga actually shifts consciousness from taking consciousness to receiving consciousness. From I am the enjoyer to he's the source of all. And therefore I'm part of it and I'm receiving that. I'm part of this and I'm receiving. So this exactly mirrors the heavenly mindset which is described in this verse. However, we eat like humans physically, but devas eat spiritually. So bhoga offering actually is the most practical way to train our consciousness to remember, or because food is also one form of pleasure. And if if the food is bringing remembrance of Krishna, if it is bringing gratitude, if it is bringing that sacred enjoyment with the regulated sense, then that activity does not become lustful activity. So after enjoyment, be it food, be it intimacy, be it entertainment, be it whatever, um, we can ask one question: did I put it down mentally, or am I still carrying it? If we don't put the pleasure that has been experienced, this means the ego is carrying the pleasure, and the mind is replaying it, and the body seeks more. Because pleasure is the fire, it keeps strengthening. So, because you're seeking more, attachment forms and the consciousness dims. So, in this space, we can understand where our consciousness, or where is that loop where the consciousness goes down, because our mind and ego is constantly thinking of those attachments that we are attached with. Then that pleasure becomes a bondage, and we carry it beyond the moment. We carry it, be it our wounds as well. We carry it beyond the moment. So if we apply it to human life, whenever pleasure increases dignity, responsibility, and God remembering, then that pleasure is Krishna. And whenever pleasure increases selfishness, forgetfulness, it becomes lust. And therefore, that is the difference between love and lust. So intimacy can be sacred, attraction can be sattvic, according to the verse. Pleasure can be divine when lived with dharma. However, when we bring everything together, we understand that the entire verse is very much related to pleasure without forgetfulness. So heavenly beings are enjoying deeply. We can't even think of that place. So heavenly beings are enjoying deeply, but they remember constantly. They don't carry the residue, they keep the dharma. And they're never owned by pleasure. They're never controlled by pleasure. And we can do the same by or through offering bhoga, where the sense of gratitude is that they're enjoying with dharma, with the regulative. So therefore, when Srila Prabhupada mentions about the regulative principles, this is where we can connect the enjoyment with within dharma, enjoyment within dharma, and dropping the residue, not carrying it in our consciousness forever. Staying grateful rather than owning it, trying to have our entitlement on those things, and seeking pleasure as mercy, not identity. We often forget our identity, and we compare it and attach it to material positions. And therefore, we think that because I have money, I can enjoy, for example. So there's this famous saying which says, enjoy the world, but don't let the world enjoy you. But in Krishna consciousness, enjoying the world would not mean where everything, the word detachment and all these things come, where what is the real meaning of detachment? Detachment is everything is there, but you still remember Krishna. Everything is there, but you never forget Krishna. So attachment is when we forget Krishna and we are attached to these things. We don't have attachment to Krishna. So attachment to Krishna is equal to detachment to this, whatever we have. It doesn't mean we have to leave everything. It means even if it is there with us, even if it is there as part of our life or part of our opulences, we use it in the service of Krishna so that the sense of gratitude, through the sense of gratitude, we can always remember Krishna. So pleasure is not the problem. Srila Prabhupada mentions that pleasure is not the problem. The problem is forgetfulness. They remember Krishna. They remember. They remain. They never forget their positions as eternal servants of the Supreme Being. So the takeaway point for me is pleasure, understanding detachment from this aspect is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And if something is in our what we say in our accounts for pleasure enjoyment, it is there, but it doesn't mean that we forget Krishna and start enjoying and start having our ownership towards those things. So we'll just finish this session with an ending reflection as to which pleasure in our life tends to make us forget the Lord. And if it is actually if anything is helping us to remember the Lord, it is sacred. And if there's anything that puts us to forget the Lord, this means that we have the controlling propensity, and it's not, and those things are in the, or those consciousness, or the consciousness of our regular dealing comes around that we are in the mode of ignorance. So Srila Prabhupada here mentions that coming from the mode of or elevating from the mode of ignorance to goodness is why these regulative principles are there to be followed. And when we are in the mode of goodness, from ignorance to goodness, we can only come when we don't forget Krishna. And when we come to the mode of goodness, we can go to pure goodness by remembering and loving Krishna more. So Srimad Bhagavatam brings in such various beautiful examples from each source for us to remember, to make us remember Krishna. See how our consciousness is how our consciousness is or where is the compass of our consciousness, if we understand it this way? Where do we, and that only comes with a lot of self-reflection. Srimad Bhagavatam gives opportunities for all of us to think through Srila Prabhupada. Because of Srila Prabhupada, we are able to see those purports and understand and think and self-reflect. So this verse, I was kind of stuck at that, like why heavenly inhabitants enjoy and they still don't forget Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada has actually put that in the very right context, that pleasure is not the problem. We often understand detachment as getting rid of whatever we have. So, but if our mind is still there on those things, and mind actually is like that system. If we keep loading a lot of things in our mind, it will always be busy and messed up, and it will be very complex for us to actually remember Krishna. So we often have to delete by as like, for example, we can say that as long as we have sense of ownership of certain files in the computer, unless and until we delete them from our system, we are not going to get rid of, we will not find the space. So creating that space for remembrance of God is where the question of what do I own and how do I understand the ownership aspect if I own, I'll never be able to remember Krishna, because I have that propensity of owning things, controlling them, managing them. But if Krishna is the maintainer, protector, giver, provider, where do I stand in this position? I am just a human being. I'm just a soul whose job is to remember Krishna and try and surrender. So I'm noticing that how all these things are kind of linked together to put our consciousness in the right place. I would like to take a stop here. I would like to stop here. If there's anything anyone wants to add or correct or anything, please feel free.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you very much for a lovely class. Completely different perspective on how pleasure is not the problem, but forgetting Krishna, that's the problem. So I was trying like this, when I was listening to this, it just came to me, Kunti Maharani's prayer. She's asking for trouble, Vipada Santulta Shashwat, Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru. So how do we juxtapose this with that? This is saying, pleasure is not the problem, but there she's actually asking for miseries, because that will only help her to remember Krishna. She's saying, Krishna will be with me when I'm in trouble, but when I'm having pleasure, then I forget him. So I just want to understand how we can understand these two things. They seem very contradictory. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
That's such a beautiful juxtaposition. It's very beautiful in the sense that we often, let's put it this way, as humans, we have this tendency when we are really happy, do we say, "Oh Krishna, why did you give me this happiness?" We will never say that. But whenever we have this trouble that comes into our lives, we have this remembrance that comes in, because we try, okay, this is a place where troubles, the first thing that comes to our mind is we start managing it ourselves. And as we manage it ourselves, we get so frustrated that the path of trouble is, because we are not able to manage it ourselves, we need a superior power to actually help us, because we are stuck. Even in Gajendra Moksha prayer, Kunti Maharani's prayer, these are pure devotees. They're not worried of struggles. Kunti Maharani has had like a whole lot of struggles in her life. But this is happening when Krishna is leaving. And these pure devotees, they don't want anything without Krishna. So all the pleasures of their life are useless if Krishna is not there. If Krishna is missing from the pleasure equation, what is the point of that pleasure? So Kunti Maharani is begging for or praying for troubles, because through troubles, in her case, in her story, Krishna was always present. And now everything is settled, and they minus Krishna, they cannot enjoy without Krishna. So this is the quality of a pure devotee, that even if they have everything present, without Krishna it is tasteless. So that remembrance aspect comes, that any pleasure or any happiness without Krishna is zero. Even or any pain, but with Krishna is 100% pleasure, because material, Kunti Maharani is actually giving us a wonderful example here through her prayers that what are we running after? These material pleasures are nothing. The material happiness is nothing if Krishna is not present there. So therefore, asking for this way or that way because of the connections they have as relatives to Krishna. That's a way of saying it's better, or please give me troubles so that I can remember I can remember you always. Because that's it can have 2-3 connotations. Number one, in troubles we always have the tendency to remember Krishna. Anything minus Krishna sitting in that equation is 0. Any pleasure minus Krishna is 0. Then any trouble plus Krishna is equal to 100% pleasure. So these combinations can also come up with this, that pleasure is not, it is the consciousness that matters, not whether we are in a good state or a bad state of life. It's the consciousness of remembering Krishna. Did I stick to this point, Mataji? Was it helpful?
Yes, Mataji, it was really nice. It answered. Yeah, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so if there's no more questions and no more comments, shall we stop here?
Yes, we could stop here, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Her Grace Radha Padma Mataji ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.